I'm here not because I've been asked to speak on this conference itself, but climate finance and climate dynamics are a passion for me. Why is it so? I have been in the corridors of United Nations. I've had the privilege of working with the Secretary General, both Ban Ki-moon and subsequently now the present Secretary General, who then appointed me to Bangkok to look after the Asia Pacific and promoted me to an Under-Secretary General. So it's this long-standing experience interface with the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and other multilateral development banks that has been behind the scenes with me. Most of all, climate finance, as I said, is my passion. I think unless we address this very lethal threat that faces the global community and the global landscape, we are not going to get anywhere, and we will have economic disruptions, as is witnessed in Pakistan. Minister Saab, it's a real privilege to be speaking after you, colleagues and guests. Growing global and domestic climate vulnerabilities are causing phenomenal damage to settlements and physical assets and disrupting economy with negative consequences for agriculture, livestock, and textile sectors, which is our major revenue earner, and have resulted in population displacement and dislocation and relocation. Pakistan's climate challenges require investments in the range of $40 to $50 billion per year till 2050. Ironically, Pakistan's current climate financing flows are only 1/6 to 1/8 of the requirement. Let me make about 6 succinct points. First, Pakistan climate vulnerabilities and its financing requirements are significant and urgent. The projected total cost of climate inaction in Pakistan is estimated to be in the range of $250 billion by 2030 and $1.2 trillion by 2050. IMF modeling exercise estimates that a climate shock will lead to a 3% decline in GDP and will be well below its steady state even 13 years after the shock. If an additional 1% of GDP on top of the conventional public investment ratio is invested in adaptation infrastructure, Pakistan's GDP will return to its steady state 5 years after the shock. Hence, climate action has to be a significant priority, and required investments must be brought about with urgency and diligence. My second point is that climate crisis is not a one-time or a short-term modular physical risk, but is persistent, evolving challenge with economy-wide consequences requiring both public and private sector action as it affects long-term health, food security, biodiversity, and the economy of the nation. For example, a global 3.3-degree warming would lead to a reduction in crop yields by up to 19% for maize, 1.6% for wheat, and 8% for rice. At the same level of global warming, the impact on several species is significant. 50% of insects, 45% of plants, and 23% of bird species will lose more than 50% of their climatic range. My third point is that climate crisis affects marginalized groups, disproportionately leading to wider gaps and inequitable conditions, disrupting livelihoods for population. For example, districts in South Punjab and North and Sindh have poverty rates between 26 and 39%, while districts in Southeast Sindh and bordering areas between Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan have poverty rates between 40 and 60%. Hence, climate financing pathways require a whole of economy approach to drive inclusive socioeconomic development for Pakistan. My fourth point is developing a medium-term strategic climate financing plan is critical. Pakistan has developed nationally determined contribution and national adaptation plans backed by sector-based goals, action plans, and key performance indicators. Hope we can keep track of these. It is proposed that the National Climate Finance Strategy include a medium-term national climate financing plan for both public and private sectors, backed by targets for climate financing sources and instruments, and priority focus area of mitigation, adaptation, and disaster recovery plans based on cost and time access efficiency is critical. Pakistan's climate financing ambition should be lifted and offer clarity in pathways and induce transparency, ownership, and commitment to financing sources and galvanize stakeholders' contribution towards Pakistan's climate action. My fifth point is steering international climate financing sources in an effective manner is critical. Given the current and expected weightage of international financing sources in Pakistan's climate financing mix, it's proportionately less share of international financing versus its peer groups. And you know who these are. And the parallel need to steer its international debt burden and domestic private financing sources, the government should lay out a focused strategic approach towards maximizing and optimizing international financing. We are very proud that the finance minister's leadership is really up to the mark. I had a discussion with him before the meeting, and of course we have heard him, and we are very confident that under his leadership, we'll all progress in an effective manner. I have to say, international finance, particularly from the multilateral development banks, should be prioritized in projects and initiatives. And I speak for my term as finance minister in the interim government. I realized whoever wants money just goes and grabs. And I said that then, and I repeat, that it is important that the finance minister takes the leadership on where the money goes ultimately, because he has the umbrella view of it. It has to be aimed to tackle barriers and foster local private financing participation through blended finance mechanisms like de-risking tools, concessional loans, etc. International finance should also be prioritized towards adaptation and resilience projects. Furthermore, international financing sources, given their expertise, can be well leveraged towards building local capacities, institutional capacities, and areas like investment planning and project pipeline development, which is critical. Furthermore, given the importance of climate action in developing countries, it is important that international development finance institution review their development budgets and plans and assign significant allocation for climate. Given international climate financing complexities and fragmented infrastructure, the government should continue to advocate for simplifying their criteria and disbursement process to bring agility and speed to funding process. International financing is likely to remain the primary source of climate finance in the midterm, so Pakistan should continue to tap new bilateral and multilateral funds to increase their share of international financing sources. I say that because both in bilateral and multilateral funds have space and been given the assignment to assign high priority to this very strategic global priority. Amongst the top 10 countries receiving international public adaptation finance during the period of 2017 to 2021, Pakistan ranks as the second poorest in terms of GDP per capita, and it ranked 8th in terms of both absolute and per capita climate finance received. My sixth point, developing local financial markets, players, and instruments is critical. The most significant and under-tapped climate financing pathway in Pakistan is the local green financial markets and innovative green financing tools and solutions. Their suitable implementation mechanism have to draw under wider market participation and accelerate efforts towards meeting the targeted climate financing. IFC estimates green development opportunities of 197 billion in the country to achieve its climate goals by 2030. The top sectors being green buildings, electric vehicles, and renewable energy. I have to conclude by thanking United Nations, what they call the Breathe Pakistan, for funding a major study with me to really do a comprehensive analytical piece that looked at all the sources and the analytics of climate finance. So thank you to Dawn Media and to the Breathe Conference for allowing me this opportunity to be able to review the whole landscape, the essence of that study, given the short time that I have been allocated. Thank you, Minister of Finance, and I once again apologize for being late. Thank you.